It was a beautiful morning when Jane gave birth to her son, John. She had been eagerly awaiting his arrival for months and couldn't believe the day had finally come. As she held her newborn son in her arms, she felt a rush of emotions flood over her: love, joy, and overwhelming responsibility. Jane had always been an animal lover, so it was no surprise that she had a cat. What was a little bit more special was that she had a pet snake living with her. Her cat, a fluffy black and white tabby named Luna, had been her companion for years and was always by her side. The snake, a beautiful green and yellow ball python named Bella, was a more recent addition to her family. Luna, being the curious and playful cat that she was, would often come to investigate the baby, but she was always gentle and never tried to harm her. Bella, on the other hand, was more reserved and spent most of her time curled up in her cage, but she provided a sense of calm and tranquility in the house. Jane quickly realized that taking care of a newborn, a cat, and a baby was no easy task. She had to make sure that the baby was fed, changed, and comfortable at all times, while also keeping an eye on the cat and snake. But despite the challenges, she was thrilled to have them all in her life and couldn't imagine living without them. The first few weeks were a blur of sleepless nights, endless feedings, and diaper changes, but Jane was determined to make it work. And with the companionship of her furry and scaly animals, she found that the days went by much more smoothly. Hey there, Viral Videos here. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell. We post the most beautiful, amazing, and scary videos every single day. Let's proceed with the video. As John grew older, he began to show a keen interest in his animal companions. He would stare wide-eyed at Luna as she played with her toys and would reach out to touch Bella's scales whenever she was nearby. Jane could see that her son was fascinated by the animals, and she knew she wanted to nurture that bond. Jane began to allow John to get close to the animals as he grew older. She would sit with him on the floor, holding him securely, while Luna and Bella roamed around them. At first, the animals were hesitant, but as they got used to John's presence, they began to interact with him more and more. Luna would come over to John and gently nuzzle his hand, and Bella would let John touch her scales with his tiny fingers. John would giggle with delight as the animals played with him, and Jane couldn't help but smile as she watched her son bonding with his animal friends. After a while, Jane began to allow him to play with the animals under her supervision. She would give him soft toys to play with, and Luna and Belle would chase after them, making John laugh with joy. Jane could see that the animals were becoming an important part of John's development, teaching him about responsibility, compassion, and patience. Eventually, John grew into a toddler, and Jane could see that the bond between her son and the animals was stronger than ever. They had become an integral part of each other's lives, and she knew that the animals had played a huge role in helping her son to grow and develop into the happy, loving boy he was. But she wasn't ready for what was going to happen in the next few days. After a while, she needed to do some grocery shopping because John was napping. She decided to not wake him up. She made sure that John was well fed and comfortable, and then she left the house. At first, Jane was nervous, but she knew that she would be back within half an hour. When she returned, she found that John was happily playing with Luna and Bella. He was sitting on the floor with Luna, who was gently batting a toy mouse back and forth with him. And Bella was curled up nearby, watching the scene with a contented expression. Jane was relieved to see that everything was fine, and she was happy to see that her son was having fun with the animals. She knew that the animals were a positive influence on John, and that they would always be there to keep him safe and happy. From that day on, Jane began to leave John alone with the animals more often, knowing that they would take care of him while she was away. She also trusted John to be more responsible around the animals, giving him more freedom and autonomy, but she would quickly regret that action. John became more and more curious about Bella, the pet snake. He would often reach out to touch her scales and try to play with her, despite Jane's warnings to be careful. One day, while Jane was busy with some household chores, John crawled over to Bella's cage and reached out to touch her again. This time, however, Bella hissed at him, bared her fangs. John, startled, began to cry, and Jane rushed over to see what had happened. As she walked into the room, she saw Luna the cat standing protectively in front of John, her fur standing on end and her tail puffed up. Luna was growling at Bella, clearly warning her to stay away from John. Jane quickly scooped up John and held him close, soothing him as he cried. She then turned to Luna and thanked her for her protective instinct towards her son. She knew that Luna had just saved John from a dangerous situation, and she was grateful for her cat's quick thinking. The incident with Bella had shaken Jane to her core. She never expected the snake to hiss at her son, and she was grateful for Luna's quick thinking and protective instincts. As she held John close and comforted him, she knew that she couldn't leave him alone with the snake anymore. Despite her love for Bella, Jane knew that she couldn't take any chances with her son's safety. She made the difficult decision to rehome Bella, knowing that it was the best thing for her son. As she said goodbye to Bella, Jane couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness. She had loved the snake and had enjoyed watching her grow and thrive under her care, but she knew that her love for her son was greater and that his safety was more important. Jane spent the next few weeks focusing on her son, making sure that he was safe and happy. She spent more time with him and Luna, and they became an even closer family. Jane knew that he would never forget the lessons he had learned from Bella. He would always remember to be cautious around animals and to respect their space. He also learned to be more responsible and to always have a protective attitude towards the ones he loved. Jane also learned a valuable lesson that as much as she loved animals and wanted to have them as pets, the safety of her child comes first. She knew that she would always be more cautious in the future when it comes to having animals around her children. What did you think of the story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like the video and subscribe. See you next time.